Greetings and welcome to the Idaho Renaissance Fair Inc.'s YouTube page.
Hi, everybody.
That there is Kat Danes. She is our president. And of course, I am Tyson Stuckey. I am the Human Resources Officer. And today we are doing an intro to sewing.
Heck yes, we are.
It's going to be one of those things where we kind of are planning to have a whole series of different projects, different things that you can do personally, where you can start, nice, easy things. And this is just to kind of get you prepared for it. Because a lot of people, sewing is a dying art. It is.
It really is. There's so many people that have no idea where even to begin.
Yeah. I mean, and back when the Renaissance was happening, everyone handmade everything that they were working with. So we're doing a little bit of a throwback, and we'd like to go ahead and start by talking about simple projects and then build up in difficulty for where you can go with them. So Kat, what is one of the easiest things that you can build yourself?
So for me, one of the easiest and most simple things that I have found to practice on, especially with people who are beginning, are just little cinch pouches. They're very simple. It's a lot of straight lines. And what I've found for a lot of people who are beginning is they're not comfortable with a sewing machine. And so they're not sure what to do. And they look at all of these big projects and they just get scared. And so a little cinch pouch is really, they're not very big and they just are a handful of straight lines.
Okay, so you practice a couple of cinch pouches. Then where do you go from there once you're comfortable with the basic there?
So once when I'm teaching somebody, like when I teach my daughter, we went through, and the next thing that we looked at was shawls, because it is a slightly bigger project than a cinch pouch, but it's still just straight lines.
Gotcha. Now, you can knit a shawl, too. It's basically like a long scarf, isn't it?
Absolutely. One of our friends that has done a couple of accessory videos, Denise, she knits some beautiful pieces, and I crochet, so I have a crocheted piece. And maybe we can encourage her to come and do a video with me on that.
Absolutely. It would be good because all of these things are stuff that you can easily do. Now, obviously, you're going to be using different fabrics when you're doing these things. So if you're starting with small pouches, do you have to go and buy a whole yard of fabric?
I don't, actually. I usually, with little pouches, I will talk to any of my friends that are doing bigger projects and just, hey, can I have your scraps? And I will, because pouches can be little or they can be big. It really just depends on the size you want to try and do. But scrap fabric is my favorite to go to for cinch pouches.
Gotcha. And you'll learn real quick as you start doing your own projects, you end up with a lot of scrap.
It's true.
And honestly, what they used to do back in the day is they would keep the scraps for favorite articles of clothing, because just like now, you wear through them.
Yep.
You will get holes, you need to make patches.
Yep, and having matching fabric is a must.
Especially if it's your favorite.
Yes.
Like, it's just something you're going to run into. So we'll go over, as we go through these videos, how to do patches, how to do buttons. My mom, that was my very first sewing thing she ever taught me, was how to
fix a button?
Yep.
That's
put
fantastic.
On a button. Because, I mean, doing the buttonhole is not the same as just doing a button. If you have a shirt, it's a button-up shirt or a blouse, and you pop a button. It happens all the time.
Well, and half the time you're not even popping them. Half the time the thread just comes out.
Yeah, because the machine ones are not on tight.
Yeah.
The way I do my buttons, those suckers don't come off unless it's like the freaking apocalypse. Like, it is so hard to finish when I'm done because I don't ever want to do that button again.
Yes.
So this is something we will definitely be going over with y'all.
Absolutely.
So we've talked about how we're going to do simple projects like pouches and hats. What's the next step in your projects?
Okay, well, we can make some hats. Those are not super complicated, and we can make from scratch. Or we can also thrift and upcycle those, which that's always fun. Shawls, which obviously we have a small variety that we could do. And then I would like to at some point talk to you guys about fabric type and the difference between what it takes to sew with silk versus sew with a brocade versus sewing with a cotton or a polyester blend. Oh my goodness, my brain took a small journey there.
It's a really good point, though, because there are so many fabrics.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have you gone into a fabric store and just gone, oh, because there's so many different, you have colors, and so many times you run into similar colors.
Yeah,
but it turns out they change the fabric.
Yeah, color and texture make a huge
difference.
Yes, thank you. The color and the texture make a huge difference in what project you're doing. Because, for example, you wouldn't build a blouse or a shirt out of a brocade, but you would want to do it out of like a cotton or a linen or something that's really breathable. A lot of people make them out of silk, but if you're wearing it for a long day like what we're doing, you're going to want to not do that if you're a peasant, but you could do that if you're a part of the royalty.
Right.
And then if for like a brocade, that's where you get into like the men's doublets and like the really fancy gowns that the royal ladies wear.
Right.
And that can get really heavy. So there's layers that you have to put on to ensure that you don't actually hurt yourself. So that's something else that I would really like to get into at some point and just do a deep dive with you guys, is the different layers that it takes so that the ladies of the time could wear those outfits without hurting themselves.
Yeah. It's really important on the fabric, too, depending on the season you're running.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
you're going to a winter festival, you don't want to go in silk.
No, you don't want to wear silk. You don't want to wear a linen. You're going to want that brocade and that thicker velvets and the
Carpet
denser
fabrics.
Yeah, like the denser fabrics. Like you're gonna want those in the winter.
Yep.
But on the flip side, in the summertime, you're not gonna want to wear those because you will overheat so fast. And unfortunately, we have seen some of our friends go down with heat stroke, and it puts you out for the count.
Oh yeah, because you may look beautiful, but you got to remember they looked beautiful back in the day too, and they were never silly enough to go, in winter clothes in the middle of summer.
Summertime.
Like they knew how to survive, and it wasn't just being naked.
And
you have to protect yourself from the sun too.
Yeah, well, and that's for summertime. They would use flax fabrics to make linen. They would use cotton fabrics. They would use there's another type, and it's escaping my brain at the moment, but they're very lightweight fabrics, but you can still do beautiful embroidery on them, and you can get gorgeous colors and beautiful designs. And whether you're a man or a woman, you can have there's so many options.
Yeah, and we'll do a video on embroidery too.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know it all sounds like witchcraft, but there's a method behind it, and it's just something that we've been evolving over the last 2,000 plus years.
Yeah.
It's been around for as long as people have been around.
Yep. Well, and embroidery is something that you can look at that's even older. If you go to the Orient, if you go into the Nordic countries, they have beautiful embroidery that they have. I mean, the Orient had amazingly beautiful painted silks. Oh, yeah. That, I mean, because the Orient was where they got silk back then, and so they had specialty artists in the Orient that would sit there, and I think they still do, where they painstakingly paint these gorgeous scenes onto the silk.
Which, if they can do it, you can do it. That's the whole thing we're trying to get at with this, is as we go through these projects, we're going to make it really easy. Like, you don't need the $10,000 Husqvarna sewing machine.
No, I mean, you can use a very simple Singer or a Brother from Walmart.
Yes.
I mean, I have a girlfriend that sews on a secondhand thrifted sewing machine, and it works great.
Yeah, I do not recommend that you go with an old, 1890s Singer, where it's foot-powered and stuff. Be nice to yourself, especially if you're starting. Unless that's a goal you're going into, go to Walmart on a Black Friday sale. Sewing machines go on
Don't go on Black Friday. Go on, the other cheap sales.
Right, any time. The point is, find them on sale. You can find a super simple one.
Heck
and
yeah.
you can make anything. Because remember, they were hand sewing these.
Oh, yeah. And hand sewing is not as complicated as people like to think it is. It's really just practice, because you can do even stitching with hand sewing just as easily as you can with machine stitching. I have a blanket that I hand stitched when I was 13 that I still have.
Yeah.
And it still functions, and it's like it really just is practice.
And that's exactly it. This is something that you have to have patience with yourself about, because it turns out there's a whole world of threads out there.
Oh, yeah.
You have embroidery threads.
Yep.
You have nylon threads for the really heavy-duty blanket quilt stitching.
Yeah. And everything in between. There's silks, there's cottons, there's linen, there's like you said, embroidery floss, there's nylon thread, there's stretchy thread.
Yeah.
I mean, that stuff is, I still struggle to deal with stretchy thread. So I like, personally, anybody who regularly uses it, I applaud you, because I still struggle with, like, I've tried it a few times and I'm like, what is the point of this?
Yeah.
Like, I will not do it.
See, I tried to make a bunch of ornaments once,
Yeah.
and it wanted just to use a regular cotton thread.
Okay.
But it didn't have the strength I needed to keep everything nice and tight, so I had to go with a nylon waxed quilting thread.
Yeah.
It was considerably tougher.
Oh, yeah.
And I still have a bunch of it because it never expires. Like, some threads will.
Yeah, no, there is like there's a thin cotton thread and flax thread. If it sits too long, it snaps, and you have to unfortunately let it go. But if you only get what you need for the project that you're working on, you shouldn't have to worry about having a bunch of extra stuff just laying around.
Yep. And there's a bunch of stores out there. Walmart has a selection that you can go to. Joann's is a really big popular one.
Yep. I know Hobby Lobby has a small selection.
Hobby Lobby, yes.
I'm pretty sure that most of the hobby stores will have at least a small sewing section, where you can get things like notions, which are like your buttons and your thread and extra needles and
which is important, because needles, it turns out there are almost as many needles as there are threads.
There are so many different thicknesses of needles, and it really does matter which thickness you're using for which type of fabric, because you're not going to want to use a silk needle on brocade or denim, but you're also not going to want to use a denim or a canvas needle on a silk or a cotton.
Yeah.
It pulls the fabric differently.
Yeah, you use a big old leather needle, and you use that on silk, and you're going to end up with these massive holes everywhere.
Yeah, you will rip right through it and have big tears.
So we'll be talking about that as well.
Yep.
We'll be talking about blankets and quilts and cloaks.
Oh, I am so excited. Okay, so there are a handful of pattern types that I am super excited to go over with you guys. Hosiery. It sounds like it might be complicated. They're not.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
The hardest part of hosiery is making sure your feet are going in the right direction.
That's true.
Everything else is really easy, and honestly, even that's not that hard.
Yeah. It's just making sure that things are facing the right way.
Yep.
And shirts, it's the same thing with shirts. Building shirts, it's making sure that the right sleeve is on the right side and the left sleeve is on the left side.
Yep.
And fortunately, a lot of the patterns that we use, it's one sleeve pattern. You can put it on either side. It doesn't matter. It's not directional.
Yeah, most of your stuff, like your hosiery, they don't have a right leg and a left leg.
Yep.
No, you can mix and match it all you want, because you know what? Back in the day, especially, they didn't need it to be directional. No one did. And you didn't have time for it. You were trying to live.
Yep. Well, and then so we're going to go over hoods and cloaks.
Yes.
Because sometimes you build cloaks without a hood. Sometimes you build the cloak with a hood. So the distinction is important. And then I would like us to do a doublet, because I think some of you guys could
Oh, yeah.
use a fresh perspective on doublets.
Yeah.
And then eventually we'll do a gown
Yep. A
from
nice
the ground
tudor.
up.
Yeah, which includes all of the layers. Like,
Yep.
we're going to have some videos. That one's going to be a long series when we finally
Yep.
get there, because
Well,
you don't
and-
just do a tutor in a week.
Nope, we may have to do the gown in a couple of sessions because your top is one entire, like, the top of a gown is usually like 5 different pieces
Yeah.
that you have to individually do and then put them all together. And then your skirt is usually 2 pieces at minimum. And then you have the bum roll that goes with it and the crinoline that goes under it and just all of the different things.
Yeah.
And then maybe one of these days we'll sit down and all of us together do a blanket and just have a quilting circle. There you go.
My mom used to make us watch baseball when
Yeah.
she was doing her quilting. Oh yeah, she'd just put on a program and we'd all be sitting there and she'd have everything put together, and yeah, it's super easy. And most everyone has something from their grandma,
Heck
or
yeah.
their great grandma, or even their mom
Yeah.
that they quilted, and we can show you the witchcraft behind it, because when you look at the full picture, it's always so overwhelming. But it's like the saying goes, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
One bite at a time. All of these projects we're coming into that we're going to be showing you, they're simple. And as you learn the tricks with us, like, we'll give you insights into easy ways to not get frustrated.
Heck yeah. Well, like, easy, simple tricks and tips, and there's a whole lot of us that sew and do variations of different things, and so we can sit there with you guys and show you the options and talk about things that we have found that make it easier.
To make it easy for us, though, we're going to need a little bit of help from all of you viewers.
Heck
we
yeah.
would like to know patterns that you would like to see, because we're going to do the general stuff, because everyone kind of has a different thing. And if it's a project that does kind of tickle our fancy, we would love to take that on for you. So if you have questions about threads, questions about patterns, about...
If you guys want a tutorial on how to stitch a button on, we will happily do a tutorial on how to put a button on.
Yeah.
Or how to replace a zipper.
Yes.
Because that is not as complicated as it sounds. It's just a little time consuming.
Yep. And keep in mind, zippers have only been around for almost like 200 years. It is a modern invention. In fact, a little
trivia.
Yeah. So 98% of zippers will have a YKK on it.
I've noticed that. I'm wondering why.
They're produced by that company.
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's actually in Japan. It's YKK. They do, like I said, 98% of all of your zippers are produced by that one company.
Wow. Well, I just learned something new.
Yeah. It was in one of these books, and it's like, did you know? But it's just so you're aware, like, zippers are easy because they haven't even been around. They were made to be there to take place of laces.
Yes, and the difference between laces versus zipper, there are pluses and minuses to both. And we are finding, especially in our costumes, that sometimes a zipper is necessary.
Yep. Like, they may not have had it back in 1494.
But you can hide those.
Yeah.
So easy.
You make your costume as authentic as you would like to. You can be extreme and do all hand stitching.
Yep.
Or you can be nice to yourself and use a little bit of a machine. Or even check out one of these tutorials that's going to be coming up and take the idea that we have. The way that we do it. None of this is going to be new to the world. We're not pioneering, a new shirt design.
No, we are not pioneering any of this. If anything, we are just happily passing along information that we have taken years to learn. Because if we can help somebody new learn how to take on a project with confidence, that's a happiness.
Yep. It's helping the next generation.
Yeah.
Especially as people are trying to get back in touch with their roots and everything.
Yeah.
So help us, help you. Give us ideas on things you would like to see. Otherwise, we have a whole bunch of things in the plan to go ahead and just have for you in general. But ask your questions, definitely pose any of the problems that you've had. We have a whole bunch of people with experience. If you've run into a roadblock and you don't know how to do something,
spit it out, like type it out, let us know. We will happily do our best, and if we can't figure it out, we know that there are people out there who have that answer, and we'll do our best to research it and bring you an answer
back to you. Absolutely, because there are going to be things that you do. Like I made a gown for my character Gottlieb Gries, and the whole pattern that we used, the way it was put together was really difficult to read, and so there were things we had to translate for ourselves just to try and understand what the fetch was going on with it. And it turned out okay, but no one else that we talked to really had a lot of experience with it either, so we had to figure it out.
So maybe that's another tutorial that we could do, is how to read a pattern.
That's a great,
because there are, like you said, there are patterns out there that are very difficult to read. And I know that one of our other seamstresses, Bobby, she has had to work with a couple of patterns as well that are very difficult to read. So I think we should definitely add that into the queue, is let's go over patterns and help you guys understand what each of the little things mean, because there's phrasing and there are little symbols that can be very confusing if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah, if you don't live in that world, I've ran into that with fabric pens. Turns out fabric pens are a thing, and they're very important if you want your buttons to line up.
Well, and chalk, like fabric chalk is so important, and knowing that you can't use the same color, you can't use white chalk on everything. Like for red fabrics, you actually need to use a green chalk.
No kidding, because it shows up better.
Yeah, so for like a red or an orange or anything that is in the pink spectrum or purple, like a green chalk actually works so much better.
Gotcha. Yeah, see? And look at this. We're already 25 minutes in, and this is just an intro. This is just to get your creative juices going. So definitely leave those comments, leave those questions. We're going to go ahead and stop it here because we could honestly go on all day.
Oh,
there
we
is
absolutely
so much depth to this.
Heck yeah.
So we hope that your history is as fun as our history, and we look forward to catching you on the next one.
Huzzah!